like, subscribe, and comment. That'd be great.
Werewolf the Podcast can be found now at all good podcasting sites. This video is sponsored by Plop to Drop, the new app from App Store or Google Play that times the release from your ass to the water of your poop, and from that can work out your digestive health. Go find it. Plop to Drop. This is about how werewolves can grant wishes. There is no stillness or any silence in nature that is comparable to this dusted with ice and sugared landscape in the nighttime. There is no better word for it, just stillness. Not a breath of wind and not a sign of light. I wander my way over the powder in a blissful state. As a wolf, this is my environment, my home, and my true niche. I can never get peace like this in any other part of the world. My feet are wide and evolved, not designed, to compact the powder beneath them to stop me from sinking. My pelt is thick and warm against the cold. The only noises that come to my ears are those of this peaceful place and the sound the snow makes when crushed beneath me. As I walk, I notice the sound of a snoring hare as it rests in the night. If I didn't have other tasks to contend with tonight, I would be very interested in finding that snore. I focus on the other audible sound now, the hiss of the fresh dropping flakes as they start to fill the sky. The noise is the clash of each ice crystal as they fall, and then their tiny explosive impacts on the soft dusty surface. The fallen snow is now deep and fresh. There are no snowbanks or drifts as the air is still. As I trot through this deep cold dust, I am at the centre of a grey bubble created by the snowfall. My footfalls are audible as squeaks and creaks as the pressure from my body weight compresses and compacts those beautiful, unique, crystalline structures, ruining them and destroying their individuality as they are damaged and destroyed simply by my passing. Even at this seemingly insignificant level, I delight in the destruction of this uniqueness, which brings me a pleasure that others would probably find as vile. I find it somewhat delectable myself. I am slowly journeying in this Disney snow globe environment for tonight's non-Disney pleasure. I am on the way to the yellow glow in the distance that denotes the venue of this evening's artistry. A sweet little farmhouse in the distance is my total focus. It is all I see at this moment, even with my superpowered senses. It is a small, warm, yellow offering of light. Comfort for most on this cold and wintry evening. Discomfort for those within, I'm afraid. As I trudge through the snow, the excitement builds in me as the individual windows become visible. The warmth and the friendliness of this little home are what I seek now, to meet the little family that lives all alone there in isolated bliss. I look forward to meeting Roger and his beautiful wife Helen and the two little ones, John and Angus. They will be my players on tonight's stage, although this show is for one night only and will be a great Shakespearean tragedy for some. I feel my own warmth developing as I get closer and closer to the building. I hear and smell the fear building the sheep in the barn. They get skittish as I get closer. They bleat in distress, and that pleases me as the animals' discomfort builds at the sense of my presence. They sense me for what I truly am, the ultimate predator in this environment, and I'm somewhere out there in the night. The sheep do not interest me this evening. I am looking for pleasure, not only for prey. At last, I can see into the windows ahead. Most are heavily curtained against the cold of the night, but a large window shows me the entire little family as they sit around the table, sharing a meal and the story of their day. Roger is a big man, maybe over 6 feet in height, maybe more, and broad across the shoulders. Perhaps he is in his 40s and balding. He was happy and clad in a woolen jumper, hand-knitted by someone who made it with much more love than talent. This heartwarming scene is disgusting to me. Life is not nice. Life should be pain and hurt, and I will show them the way. Helen has long, warm, brown hair and a smile that the Mona Lisa would have been proud to have. She is a beautiful woman, and she clucks around her boys as she dishes out the food fresh from the oven onto their plates. Such a beautiful little family, having such a wonderful little night. The boys are arguing over the roast potatoes. The unfairness of their distribution seems to have become an issue for them, and the parents are smiling and laughing at the small war that the siblings pursue until Dad gives one of them a potato from his plate to mollify the issue. My revulsion at this beautiful family picture and my hunger are both building. I really could eat. I stand in the snow looking at this perfect scene of perfect family life and look forward to joining the meal as their guest. Well, a guest is pushing it. Joining them for dinner was probably enough. It was now my time to feed. As I got closer to the house, I made my way around to the door, and at 100 yards from it, I started to run. I increased my pace until I crashed through the door into the dining room. The family had no time to react before I was on them. I had to take them down, all of them, before they could get to their phones and get help. The 2 children were torn to pieces by my left and right claws as I transformed to the werewolf. As I passed them on my way to dear daddy, the poor boys had no chance to scream or shout out as their fairly shared potatoes were thrown all around me. As I continue over the table, I open my jaws and clash them together around Daddy's throat, crushing it in one bite. The whole episode must have lasted a couple of seconds. The only person left is Mum. She stands frozen in the doorway, between the kitchen and the dining room, her mouth opened, having dropped the pot she had in her hand, scattering the peas everywhere. I met Helen in the village over a week ago. She was grocery shopping and had stopped for her weekly treat of a vanilla latte at the newfangled Starbucks that had popped up in the village at some point this year. I had passed her in the street that day and sniffed her arousal at my proximity. Her excitement excited me equally. I had stopped to watch her while looking at the local touristy crap-selling shop. I was feigning interest in the badly painted Highland cow pictures in the window and eyed her as she crossed the street and entered the coffee shop. She paused briefly at the door and accidentally, in inverted commas, made eye contact, to which I returned a wry smile. She entered the shop with a lingering look, and I slowly made my way across the road and walked into the coffee shop behind her. Supreme confidence oozed from my every pore. She was now waiting in line for her turn to get a coffee. I joined the queue directly behind her and waited for an opportunity to start conversation. I took some loose change from my pocket and dropped a few coins on the ground and then began to reach for them and pick them up. In doing so, I bumped Helen's legs and she turned and apologised and started to help me find the coins scattered on the ground. As her hair passed close, I sniffed it gently. She froze in that micro moment. Her mind coalesced into taking action. She let her little inner beast make that decision. After a few moments of fumbling about and giggling, we managed to collect the coins. With a smile, she handed them back to me. It was a glorious smile. Her enjoyment and embarrassment were both evident in that brief moment. Her hand lingered a little too long on mine. Thank you very much, I said. Alex, she said, smoothing away a stray hair back into her bob. Really? Alex? I asked and smirked. Inside, I revelled in that first delicate lie. The beauty of that first moment of succulence. Her human morals and ethics had been put to the test. The beast had raised its head before her, and she had taken its offer wholeheartedly. It snarled with delight and satisfaction at her acceptance. At this beautiful lie given to me, I laughed openly and saw a look of confusion pass over her face. Why was I laughing? I could not give away the fact that it was due to this moment of sin, so I would have to find another reason for finding this amusing. That's amazing. Alexandra was my mother's name, and we called her Alex. I lied. She laughed, and it slowly dropped away into an awkward silence. Well, Alex, I'm new to this town, and it would be nice to have some company and maybe, get some gossip about the locals, I laughed. She showed a little embarrassment and shyness as she smiled and looked briefly down at the ground. I could feel her brain working. Oh, I couldn't possibly. It's fine. Her voice dropped to where she spoke. Hi, she replied. Oh, okay, sorry, I didn't realize you were married or seeing someone. My apologies. No problem. I hope you have a great day, Alex. I smiled, looking at my watch, and returned to queuing, while not Alex, but really Helen, turned her back towards me and continued. She stood awkwardly, and I could sense the conflict in her system. I could smell the hormonal melee going into overdrive. In my mind, I counted down from 10. She turned to me with those darkly innocent eyes, filled with a little naughtiness at 3. The beast was now evident in her. I could see its face flickering. She twiddled her wedding ring with her left hand around her finger and met my eyes, and she smiled and did a little nervous shake of the head. Okay, I have an hour. I'm sure that I'll be fine. What's your name? My name is Ben, I lied. Pleased to meet you. Alex? We started chatting as we made our way to the front of the queue, and she ordered a vanilla latte and I ordered a flat white. I paid for both. We took our drinks to the nearest empty table. So, Helen, what do you do in this little town? I acted with polite interest in the fact that she helped run a farm in the hills, a farm that had been in her family for a few hundred years. The first date was full of laughs, giggles, and tactical body language. We sat at the table and looked into each other's eyes across the coffees. My body language was sprinkled with no meaning. It meant nothing. I sat across from her, signifying my interest by leaning into her and bringing my shoulders to parallel with hers. I would then tantalize her by taking my interest away, by leaning back and turning my shoulders from her. This meant that the mixture of signals kept her interested without frightening her by overdoing it. I enjoyed the pretense of smiling and laughing at hearing the village's gossip. She pointed out the key characters of the place and even made up the stories that she gave. Oh, this was a really fascinating place. We were getting on well. Stage 2 of the rapport had been established. I needed the next moment to guarantee the next day. Then came that special moment where she reached out for the sugar. Not that a vanilla latte did not have enough already. I noticed the movement in her hand, and I made a move to pass her the required crystalline goodness, and our hands briefly touched as we reached out. There was a momentary spark as the initial physical contact happened. That was the deal sealed. Now it was a gentle uphill trot to owning her soul. She looked at her watch and sighed. I have to go, Ben. I need to get back to work. No problem, I replied. My body language showed my obvious disappointment at her wanting to leave. I would have been a great actor if my artistic propensities had gone in that direction. Is there any chance I could see you again, Alex? I completely understand if not, but I really hope that you can. You've truly been the highlight of my stay. For a moment, she sat and considered this situation. The conflict was painful and evident in her. It was beautiful. Ben, I have to tell you the truth. I am married and I do have kids. And she hid her eyes from mine. I let my eyes sink to the ground and offered her a sigh as though disappointed. After a few moments I looked at her and smiled. I understand then, Alex. No worries. I would not want to cause any trouble. This has been a lovely meeting and a chat. She nodded. There was a little uncomfy time at a time where she mourned the loss of this opportunity. I smiled again and then made a dangerous claim. This may cause rejection and a rift, but the situation required it. Okay, but I mean, coming for a coffee can't be a bad thing, can it? I really promise, cross my heart, hope to die, cross my fingers and my toes and my nose, if you can do that. I will not fall in love with you, and I will not try to steal you from your family. How about that? Again, she considered this, as she gently scratched the back of her head and played with her hair, and she came to her conclusion quite quickly. Okay, Ben, I would really like to see you again. You must promise not to fall in love with me, though. Don't worry. I promise that's the last thing I'm going to do. I told her truthfully. She was again another step on the road to her own loss. She had stepped beyond her own boundaries of ethics and morality. It was a truly beautiful moment. We met the very next day at the very same time. I now had to start down the road to her failure and my ultimate gain. I mean, she wanted to ruin her life. She was bored with what she had. She wanted adventure and excitement and the thrill of the new. I was the one that could do that for her. I slowly managed to build her interest. I was now looking for her to validate herself. She needed to offer to try and make herself seem important. Normally they would do this naturally. Something as simple as proving that she is good at something or another to try and impress. When someone tries to impress you, they respect you and see you of high value. You now have some power over them. I mean, it could be anything she was trying to impress me with. It could be something as shit as she had a 25 yards breaststroke certificate. It didn't arrive though, so I had to go to an old, tried and tested method. I asked her to describe her best qualities as a person. The lovely thing about this method is we get some idea of what type of person they are too. Try it. She told me she was loyal, hard-working and a perfectionist. When I pushed her harder for more details, I got some reasons for these choices, but these did not really matter anymore. Just in the act of defining herself, she had validated herself, and in doing so, she had tried to prove her value to me. She was now seeking my approval of her choices, which I gave her. She had taken another step to be mine. Try this in your daily manipulations of people. I increased the general touching as we talked after that. I had started with short and infrequent touches of the upper arm, working my way to more prolonged touches of a more personal nature. The test here was to get her to reciprocate the touch. As soon as she touched me back, there was no danger of me landing in the friend zone. Yes, it's that easy. If the person starts to touch you back, it means an element of physical intimacy. I decry you idiots that moan about being in the friend zone. All you have to do is establish the touch system to get out of the friend zone, or just get out of the friend zone and have nothing to do with that person, you loser. Then I had to prepare for the next set of tests that women try on the male. They are sort of interviewing you for the ultimate position, remember? The first test in England is called the wimp test. I suppose it would be something different like the pussy test in America, although I never understand why the pussy is the ultimate weak thing. I mean, they can take a heck of a pounding and do not complain, while dicks are weak-minded and limp at a moment's notice. Anyhow, getting back to my point of my writing, the wimp test is where she gives you instructions to see if you will just follow them blindly. It is a test of your status and your neediness. If you follow these instructions blindly at the beginning of your relationship, it shows you are weak-willed and of low status. The tests are little things like, can you pass me my drink, when she can easily reach it herself. In fact, it may be that you have to make more effort than she does to get it. You have to be careful at this point. You can't just tell her to fuck off and get it herself. If the request seems genuine, it's okay to do so, but make sure there is a proviso. So will you pass her the drink? Yes, I will, as long as I get a kiss. Or point out that she can reach it easily and laugh at this. The next test is the take the piss test. She will be rude to you in an effort to try and see if she can hurt your feelings easily. She's not going to say anything too devastating or obnoxious. She will just push you a little to gauge how you react. It may be as simple as your jacket does not go with your outfit, or you look better when you shave. The wrong thing to do is become a pouty princess in response. The best answer is just either to ignore it or laugh it off. She's looking to see if she can directly affect your confidence. She is trying to see how easily that confidence can be damaged. Again, it's a test of your value. And you can stand there and say, this doesn't work, but I've been doing this for years. These tests are easy to spot once you realise what they are. They will stop once she is satisfied with responses. If she takes the piss test and it keeps coming and it starts to get a bit annoying to you, then you can pick her up on it. She's unlikely to even know she's doing it, and it will make her feel uncomfy that she's doing the testing. If she keeps doing it after that, then she's a bit of a cunt. So I would, tell her to fuck off that point. She's not worth it. We met each day for a coffee and a chat for the next few days. The conversation was about forming attachment, and we soon went from a state of early bantering to deep rapport. I used my favourite techniques. I got a number, and the techniques went into texting. God, she was pathetic. I mean, she sat there and told me about life on the moor with the kids, how it was the same day every day, how she spent it with her boring husband who spent more attention on the sheep than on her and her kids. Let's just say that her sexual satisfaction was never guaranteed. I teased her and led her into the world of nonsense that I pretended was my life. She ate it up. Lawyer, taking a break in the Highlands and all that shit. Eventually one day I got her to come back to my hotel after the fucking awful Starbucks coffee and gave her what she really needed. She needed some adventure in her life. She needed some time spent on her and some good sex. It was going well. She'd never been with another man but hers, but she leapt in with both hands. 4 hours of sex and she was up and down for anything. I mean anything. In fact, she took the lead with some of the filth, and I was surprised. She'd obviously been watching a lot of porn. The problem was after she came, she played the crying game. The guilt, the hurt, the pain came pouring out of her. How she was an awful person for cheating on her family. It was so fucking annoying. I got so bored with her, but tried to play the lovely person card. I managed to get her bundled up and out the door and back in the car and fucked her off. It had been fun. But now it would be more fun. It was the end of her fun. If she was as miserable as she seemed, I would be doing her a huge favour by ending that misery. She obviously did not have the guts to do anything about it. Her excuse for her life. So I was here this winter night to help her out. I was in her home. There was a werewolf in the middle of the dining room. Her kids and husband had died before the peas had hit the floor. She raised her hands to her mouth and screamed a wail that would set the edge to her blade. She collapsed to the floor as internally she lost the ability to stand. She slumped against the wall, covering her head and her eyes as I turned my body towards her. I stood in silence as she stopped breathing for a moment while her body tried to react to what had just happened. Before I did anything else, I waited for her to remove her hands from her eyes. I wanted her to see the next few minutes as the wolf became the man. I changed before her as she watched. She sat in stunned silence as she saw the change and then the look of recognition of who I was. I crouched down to the woman and I reached out for her with my hand. She still did not speak or move. She just sat and stared. I crouched before her naked and smiling. Hey, Alex. How are you doing? I listened to what you said the other day and I thought I would rescue you like the princess you are. See? You're free. No more man. No more kids. No more farm on the moors. You're free. She looked away from me for the first time at the destruction of the room. The kids were, well, in bits, to be honest. They had stood no chance against my charge into the room. Ben sat still in his seat. His neck was torn out at the front, and his lovely knitted jumper was now, stained red and glistening. "Oh, no," she moaned. "Yes, Alex. This is what you wanted, isn't it? You wanted your freedom. You were bored and cheating on your family. I have done you a favour by not making you have to make that choice anymore. But remember, always be careful about what you wish for. You might just get it." I leaned forward and kissed her gently on the forehead as I changed back to my wolf. I gave her one last look. I had destroyed her soul. It had been her choice. It was what she told me she wanted and wished for. Unless, of course, Helen, was a liar. I often wondered what happened to her after this night. I hoped she moved to Ibiza and lived the crazy life she wished for. Probably not, though. I turned, went to the door, and disappeared into the snowy night. A little more art was created in my life. Thanks for listening. Love you loads. Bye.